Welcome to Airway Answers, expanding your breadth of knowledge. My name is Nicole Goldfarb, and I'm a speech-language pathologist and certified orofacial myologist. And I'm here to help you find your airway answers. We're in this together. Let's do this. Hello, I'm Nicole Goldfarb, and I'm the host of Airway Answers. Please subscribe to Airway Answers with Nicole Goldfarb on YouTube for the full interview and many other fascinating airway interviews. Today, I'd like to welcome Dr. Michael Mew to the Airway Answers stage. This is episode 49, titled Dr. Mike Mew, The Face Behind the Mewing Movement Reveals All. This is Dr. Mew's first interview since the end of his devastating court case. Stay tuned and listen as he shares his side of the story. Are you ready to explore the global phenomenon of mewing and learn about Dr. Mike Mew's struggles with spreading the concept that facial growth is not just about genetics and the search to find answers as to environmental impacts leading to craniofacial dystrophy? The mewing movement revolves around oral posture and facial change, but the story behind the concept of mewing is even more interesting. Join us today in this captivating interview as Mike Mew delves into the driving force behind this viral movement for facial change. You're going to learn and discover how the simple concept of correct tongue posture has exploded into a worldwide trend. You'll learn why millions believe that oral posture can significantly influence facial development and breathing. You'll understand how this mewing movement has empowered individuals, particularly young people, to take control and have some role in their facial growth. You'll explore the idea that environmental factors, not just genetics, play a crucial role in shaping our faces, which is a core tenet of mewing. Find out how social media propelled this once niche concept into a mainstream discussion about aesthetics and health. Learn about Dr. Mike Mew's journey and struggles and the support he is asking for in continuing this deeply rooted idea about facial growth and change. Stay tuned for this inside look at the mewing phenomenon and the story behind Dr. Mike Mew. Let's talk a little bit about who Dr. Mew is before we begin the interview. Dr. Mike Mew is a leading British orthodontist known for his innovative approach to improving dental alignment and facial structure simultaneously and naturally. He is a leading pioneer in the field of orthotropics, a specialty spearheaded by his father, Professor John Mew. Orthotropics flips traditional orthodontic methods on their head by stimulating the natural development of the jaw and facial structure to make room for the teeth instead of performing extractions or other dental reduction procedures. Central to Dr. Mew's practice is the mewing technique named after him. Mewing is a non-invasive practice involving correct tongue positioning against the roof of the mouth, proper jaw alignment, and improved body posture. This technique, according to Dr. Mew, aims to reshape the face to function more optimally, aiming for both aesthetic enhancement and better health outcomes. And Dr. Mew makes it clear that mewing is not myofunctional therapy, and it's his spin-off on this concept of proper oral rest posture. Thank you so much, and I look forward to you staying tuned for the next part of the interview. Enjoy. Remember, give a thumbs up, a comment, spread the information, share the interview so we can get more people listening, subscribing, and really grasping this information. Thank you so much. This is a raw interview.
Life is raw.
Life is raw. And I thought we're going to kind of chat, see what we'll talk about. So I don't have all these questions prepared. So we're going to raw this.
Well, okay, so Nicole, what we were just talking about when you met me, we met at the conference in LA, I think organized by Mark Moeller. Yep. It was very fancy comment, a very fancy hotel. He organized an excellent event. And that event was full. I was talking about Michael Gelb and Howie, who I was chatting to there. And there's a lot of people on a quest for answers. Okay, now your channel's part of that quest for answers. And you know, one of the problems now, Nicole, this is a really big problem in our field. If you believe things are genetic, it's very easy to be consistent. Okay, you can very easy to be united in what you're thinking. If you believe it's something in the environment, the next thing you've got to agree is on what in the environment it is. That's, I think, part of the problem of us finding all these answers. Everyone's speaking from different hymn books. Everyone's doing different things. How many different organizations are there, Nicole?
There's tons. And you just opened up a thought for me when you said, when we think genetic, it's a pretty easy answer. I don't want to say it's a cop out, but it's almost like this gene, that gene, black and white. But
and then you can forget about it because it's happened.
And that's the answer. But when there's environmental components, there's so many factors, right? All of this sleep, breathing, airway, the way the face grows and develops, there's so many different components.
Yeah.
I tell parents, yeah, you may breastfeed your child for 2 years. That's wonderful.
You don't know if they're not eating hard food or they're eating porridge or they've got a nasal obstruction. There's so many other factors as well.
So you could do everything right in one realm, and then maybe the child's sucking their thumb or allergies, like you just said.
And yet we know we've got examples of our ancestors and people living more natural lifestyles who are fine now. I mean, they all are. It's like we're all affected now, and none of them were affected in the past. And we just don't know why.
These issues are so multifactorial that...
I don't like that term. No, sorry.
Okay, why not?
Multifactorial is that term that's used to whitewash the wall where before you know the answer.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Okay, so if there's multifactorial, what are the factors?
Well, many factors.
This is what I've been trying to work on, okay? And you're going to look at philosophies out there. As far as facial growth goes, the only two real overview philosophies would be Melvin Moss's functional matrix theorem and Benny Solo, the soft tissue drape concept.
I don't know that second one you just said.
Benny Solo, this isn't as well known. So Benny Solo, he was a lovely chap, really lovely chap. He was professor in Copenhagen. He was followed by Inge Kehr. He had a heart attack. I think he was on a plane, wasn't feeling very well. He was talking to a girl who became the assistant professor and taught me, went home and died. But he was a lovely chap. He was talking about the soft tissue and the limits of the soft tissue and how the soft tissue is pulling back on facial form and how it drapes down. But, you know, it wasn't a comprehensive theory. And Melvin Moss's theory falls apart as soon as you hang your mouth open. Melvin Moss is great when you've got your mouth closed. As soon as you hang your mouth open, the window goes out the door. What's this to Melvin Moss? Explain this in Melvin Moss work. Doesn't work. He was just talking about the compartments within the head, and you've got the soft tissues in this compartment. So this compartment, as we know in dentists, the teeth sit in a balance between the lips and the tongue, or the teeth and the bone sits in a balance between the lips and the tongue. Okay, so Melvin Moss, and this is the main kind of conceptual theory of growth and development, because if we accept there's an element of an environment in the etiology of malocclusion, and anyone watching this or colleagues, and I would imagine you do, that's why you're watching it, that's why we're talking, because we accept there's an environmental element, then how does that work? What's the pathological process going on? 100 years ago, certainly 1,000 years ago, we thought 32 teeth were normal. We now think that 24 teeth are normal, which is totally normal. You buy a model to demonstrate how to brush your teeth. It's going to have 28 teeth.
That's funny because I never really thought about that.
You go in the exhibits in the trade displays, how many teeth have they got on the exhibits? If you go in to buy, so you go to a conference,
okay, and
you go to buy something in the conference. Okay, this is any dentist knowing this will know. You go into all of those conferences and everything's got 28 teeth. It's like you look in mouths, people have got 28 teeth. Yeah. How many people have got their wisdom teeth in function?
It's the new norm. It's like a unicorn.
It's the new norm, exactly. 28 teeth is a new norm. So we've had this great big change. There's no suggestion this is genetic. I mean, if you think this is genetic, you and me have got some pretty different ideas on science. Yeah. It's, you might as well think the Earth's flat. Something's gone on. Something really weird has changed, and we've only got 28 teeth, and all my fingers fit on my hands.
Aren't babies sometimes now being born without wisdom teeth?
Well, this is interesting. I mean, I don't know, but what I do know is that when you look at ancestral collections, and you talk to anthropologists, and you see ancient skulls, it is really rare for them to be missing teeth. And the number of teeth I see missing now, like wisdom teeth, or 5s or 2s, you just don't see that in ancestral skulls. I'm not doing research on it, But there must be a pathological process by which this goes on. Something has changed that's really quite dramatic. And we've all got our own ideas on what's happening and what's going on. What I stand for, and what I've stood for, what I've pushed for a long time is that we should have debate on the cause. This is my big thing. For crying out loud, if we don't have an accepted cause, well, we need to talk. You said it was multifactorial. Great. I'd love to have a great chat, scientific chat with you, because I think we've gone from really hard, solid foods across to really soft foods. We've gone from breathing out our nose, the tongue on the roof of the mouth and the mouth closed, to hanging the mouths open. We've gone from breast and bottle, late weaning on hard things, over to early weaning, bottle, soft things. You know, how many blenders existed 1,000 years ago?
True.
How many blenders were there?
That's true. It's
None.
zero. And you know what? It's funny. I kind of remember my mom, she would chew, this might sound really gross, but she would chew meat and then take it out and give it to me. Like she would chew a little bit and then give me the meat.
Yeah,
Gross. But maybe that's a good thing because it's like eating a natural food. The mother kind of helps.
no, you're getting the bacteria.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Here again, that's the bacteria, because you need this massive transfer of bacteria between mother and child all the time.
So it's good or it's bad that I was getting
Yeah, massively beneficial.
Oh, woo!
We've got the yuck factor now.
It's true.
No one wants to be affected by something that's yucky.
Well, also after COVID, now people are really afraid of germs getting sick again. And it seems like there's a lot more viruses because kids were all indoors and not at school for a while. So all these different things are going around, and it feels like definitely a different world right now. But in terms of the changing face, so what do you think is the biggest factor? You said the shift of foods, allergies.
Well, I think it depends. If you're looking at the overall structure of where the jaws are, where you refer to as the basal bone, I think that's more influenced by muscle effect. I don't know if it's how much you use your muscles, how strong they are when you do use them, or a rhythmic motion. I don't know. It's something to do with the muscle function, okay? And then there's something to do with the posture. And I think that's what's really defining the overall break shape. I agree with Dad's philosophy he's come out with recently, his Mastantos philosophy, that when the prolonged breastfeeding without nasal blockage encourages the tongue to be up on the roof of the mouth in this kind of rhythmic pattern, and it finds a home there, and that pushes the whole maxilla forwards. So I think that's also important, and things that get in the way of that pattern of development. But I think the base structure, where the bones are, is mainly due to the muscle effect and the oral posture. So kids are supposed to breathing through a nose, mouth closed, tongue on the roof of the mouth, and teeth in together. So the teeth are coming together often and in relatively high contact because you're posturing with the teeth together. The one difference, this is my own philosophy, and please prove me wrong, is whether the position where the tongue should or shouldn't be going through in between the teeth, and whether the teeth should be together. And that's an interesting philosophy, which, I stand to be proven wrong. Okay, that's how we learn in science. But if you hang your mouth open and you have weak muscles, well, you've seen someone who's had a stroke, haven't you? So you know what happens.
Face, skin sags, everything kind of begins.
And that's the modern human.
Yeah, it's very true.
And so as the vertical gets increased, the cross-section area gets reduced. It's a bit like one of those kids' toys. Sorry, it looks nice behind me here, but it's a mess over there. And I can see some kids' toys that I could just go like that with the heads.
Yeah.
And as you increase the length, you're not making any more volume. So you've got to reduce the width and you've got to reduce the depth. Well, then we've got 32 teeth down to 28 teeth. Look at ancient people. You've got people now living more natural lifestyles. You go out back in Kenya, you go out back in many countries around the world where people are living more natural lifestyles. And Dad did this in Kenya, where he got some xanthopprine, that material, one of the silicone impression materials, the putties. He got silicone putty. And so what he did was he just asked people. He paid some, he bought drinks or whatever. But he got this, and this was about 10, 20 years ago. He took a mold behind their wisdom teeth. And look, I've seen them, some of them have got that much space, but a great big space, over a centimetre behind the bottom wisdom tooth. And we know what our ancestors looked like because our ancestors, we've got the skulls in the museums and they look just like them.
How would you describe the role of genetics?
Well, you see, you can't grow without genetics. And I think genetics will often influence the way it goes wrong. Okay. So I remember my father had a Lancia car. Now, Lancias was an Italian car they decided to sell in Britain, and they suffered horrific rust problems. Because clearly you've got a car that's built for dry, sunny climates where they never salt the roads. And they suddenly put it in Britain and it was wet. They salt the roads in the winter. It's always wet. And so these cars rusted like crazy. So they stopped bringing them to the UK. But before they stopped, they did one of these recall things. And this guy turned up, they wrote to Dad, they turned up, and he got this prong. And he went exactly to the exact spot on the Lancia and pushed this sprong clear through the body girder underneath. And he goes, it's gone. I'll write you a check for the cost of the car. And yeah, great. No, we're pulling out of the UK, but we'll compensate you. Now he knew exactly where to go. And all the Lancias in England rusted in exactly that spot. And you could say that Lancias were rusty and Lancias rusted in that spot. Yeah, they did. Okay. And that was their genetic makeup. They did in England. They wouldn't have if they were back in Italy where they were designed to be. There'd be no problem. But it's just here in the UK that they're struggling.
So it's a good way to describe epigenetics, right?
There's a lot written on epigenetics.
Okay.
Okay. And epigenetics is basically that the RNA can control the DNA, and actually they can even, there's examples of where RNA can change DNA, and there are examples of how RNA could be influenced by the exterior environment of the cell. And it's interesting. I mean, I've heard so much about epigenetics that it contradicts each other. I think the area needs investigating more. Okay. I think much of this you don't need epigenetics in this. Yeah. You don't need that explanation. I think the explanation is relatively simple, that getting these problems is caused by, I wouldn't say totally caused by environment. We don't know that, but the evidence would suggest that. The evidence, hard in black and white peer-reviewed papers in respected journals. But it could easily be that the environmental influence is causing this mess, but we're going wrong in certain familial patterns.
That makes sense.
So I caught my daughter doing this the other day because she had an idea. Strange thing is, I do this when I have an idea, and my father does this when he has an idea.
Mirror neurons, right?
I don't know. Did I learn that from her? Did she learn that from me? Or do
you have the hand rubbing gene?
Or no? Maybe.
That's interesting, though. I just was interviewing Diane Barr. Great.
Yes, I saw a little bit of that interview. Yes, yeah, an interesting lady.
Yeah, she's great.
I'd love to talk to her, actually. So clearly I've had a few problems. I'm really focused on answers, okay? I'm not going to be your normal person, okay? I've given my life to finding answers here. My father had some really interesting concept. I sought to try and make his concept into a business. I think if it hadn't been for all of these crazy court cases and stuff, then I'd have certainly done better. But it was hard work. It was hard work because trying to change kids, it's not easy. You can make their teeth go into a certain position with a mechanical system quite easily. To try and get a child to change their posture, okay? And a lot of this mewing thing that's kicked off was because I explained, as I'm explaining to you, that there's a strong environmental influence. I made sense. What I'm saying here is now, as if you're age 12 to 22, this is the default idea. This is how it is. Because what I'm saying kind of holds weight. It's backed up by the vast weight of evidence. It's huge. It's just ignored. Because people don't like to change. I want answers. So due to the fun and games I've had over the last few years that have been brutal.
Yeah.
In a way, most people don't know, brutal. And when it really hits your family, that's when you know how brutal it is.
I'm sure.
And when you have to put family first, you know how brutal it is.
Yeah.
Okay? Exactly. I used to be a dentist. I had a clinic. I don't have anything now. Yeah. I'm thinking about how I'm going to pay this month's rent. Yeah. Everything's been cancelled. Everything down the list. You cancel the lot. Because it's the people who don't cancel everything fast who come unstuck. I can go, yeah, I can live on nothing. Yeah. Luckily, I've got some people offering me their places to go and stay on holiday. So suddenly I'm actually able to not be completely destitute. And so I said, I'm living in God's house at the moment. So this is the local church I irregularly attend.
Ugh.
So you can understand I've been hit quite hard by the system.
I'm so sorry too. I really feel
It's my daughter's. We can get lots of headaches, and that's probably my biggest thing in life at the moment, to be honest, because family comes first. Okay, but you cannot stop. Why have I been punished? Why? What have I really done? There was no suggestion that I'd harmed anyone. One patient there was two patients in this case. One was it didn't do the treatment, and the other had a brilliant result. So it's a philosophical issue. I won't go on about this because it's a philosophical issue. It's a clear philosophical issue. Okay? The rulings against me was lack of evidence base. Okay? So I just lacked the evidence base to say what I was saying and do what I was doing. But everything I'm saying would be common speech in any meeting you would go to. In any meeting you would go to, what I said and what was adjudicated on would be considered the going. But how do you demonstrate that in a courtroom?
in many ways the world is so backwards now. You're so far ahead of the game that it's not even the same game that these other people are playing. They don't understand it.
Anyway, I tried to keep my father's treatment alive. I think that's where we started on that angle of conversation. And I was not successful. So I had two objectives. One objective was to keep orthotropics was going, see if I could develop it, make it into a business, teach it, all the rest of it. I don't know if that's what I definitely was good at doing it, motivating the kids, and I love teaching, but organization let me down a little bit. But then, of course, I had the court case. I had everything stacked against me. Now, I had the other objective. One objective was the clinic and the system. Other objective was getting word out there. Okay. When YouTube arrived, I jumped on it. When Facebook arrived, I jumped on it. And I just wound it to get the information out there. Now, I was very lucky. I was exceptionally lucky. And of course, I think that you can't fool all of the people all of the time. Sometimes people who haven't been given, they don't have an idea already in their mind. They haven't got an idea in their mind. So these kids, they look around, they think, what's life? What's going on? And someone comes up to them and say, look, this theory makes sense. And they go, yeah, it makes sense. And he's got good evidence. And oh my God, did they kick it out the ballpark? I see Vlad from Vladivostok.
How did that happen? So how did that start? I'm sure everybody knows because our kids are mewing. In my school, my kid comes home. I'm like, what? This is in San Diego and it's just all over.
I know.
How did this get started?
But it was bound to happen sometime, wasn't it? As soon as kids work out that there's a significant environmental influence over how their faces grow, what are they going to do?
And now they're taking it from the cosmetic route, right? Would you say that's kind of the impetus?
Yeah, clearly, absolutely. They don't interested. But if you go down and you look at the occlusions, the best occlusions, who are they in? Good faces, the well-grown faces that look nice, or are they in the faces that didn't grow well and don't look nice?
Right.
Where are they?
In the good-looking faces.
So if you've seen someone with a really prognatic face, cheekbones to die for, or not to die from, and not an airway to live for.
Yeah.
These guys, they've often got their wisdom teeth in.
Yeah.
These people with these very prognatic, strong jaws, full facial development, they're not always, but they tend to be the ones that have their wisdom teeth.
Right.
They've just got more space.
Yeah. Was your thought and your father's thought in the cosmetic realm, or did it begin that way and then link to health background? Because we
No,
know
no, I mean, well, what are we talking about? We're talking about the treatment of my father's ideas.
just the concept, I guess, the orthotropic concept and the concept of oral rest posture, getting correct posture can help define the face, help the face.
Okay, well, it kind of went a little bit backwards because my father was trying to treat malocclusion and the patients were pointing out to him that they look better. And
Oh,
they kept saying it to him and he starts going, oh, yes, they do. And of course, lots of fermenting. My father is on the spectrum, clearly, as the rest of the family. We've got a name for it now. But he thinks really well. He thinks long. And my grandfather had this phrase that there's a reason for everything. So that's kind of one of the family mottos, or find a way or make a way. And there's always a reason for something.
right.
Sometimes that reason is randomness. Randomness exists. But does it always exist? And you've just got to think, we've got enough evidence. Nicole, we don't need any more evidence until we've looked at the evidence we've already got from a different angle, or from every angle you can, because that's what we owe people. That Hippocratic oath, the scientific process, the blah, 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 all the way down. We
Now
just need to have open debate.
we know when we see these wide jaws, four jaws, good grown faces, we see larger airways, healthier people. Not just better looking cosmetically, but there's typically better health. They're not,
What's good looking? What is good looking? What is it?
what
What is the concept? What does it mean?
I don't know. That's really hard to define, right?
Why are you attracted to high cheekbones? Why are you attracted to a strong jaw? Why?
Is it symmetry? I don't know. Is it?
To some degree it is. I mean, Alf Linney did his thesis on that, and it definitely holds some weight, but there's some base, I think there's a lot more to it, because it's not just symmetry. I could get you someone very symmetric, an eye on their face down to their neck, and they're perfectly symmetric. They ain't going to look very good.
Right. So is it what is the answer?
Well, maybe it's health.
Oh, well, there you go. Okay.
Maybe we're hardwired to be attracted to healthy people.
That's deep, and that's so true.
Hey, maybe that could be nonsense. I don't know. It's just a wild stab in the dark.
It's so correct. That's exactly right. When your jaws are grown wide, when you're breathing well, when you're sleeping well, you're healthier. You tend to be healthier. You tend to not get that Venus pooling, dark baggy eyes.
Yeah. I mean, it's just you're healthy.
And that's what you see. People see that. And also when you feel
Yeah, I remember. Sorry, I'm interjecting.
no, I'm like getting all excited.
I know, wonderful. We're talking about beauty, attractiveness. It's an exciting subject.
We're going air.
I say, listen, the only people interested in this are people with faces. All the people without faces, they're not particularly interested.
Or they're angry.
People with faces are generally quite interested in this topic.
Yeah.
That's why Mewing did so well.
Okay, we know a lot of the mewing is based around facial cosmetic. Do you think these kids are getting the health aspect of this?
I think undoubtedly. That's what I think. It's really interesting. I had an engagement that you noticed with some myofunctional therapists recently. And I'd love to, I want to have engagement and debate. I want answers. And I love engaging with people. And it was clearly within that post, there was room for debate. Okay? On lots of subjects. And yeah, I want answers. I don't know everything, but I'm asking the right questions. Yeah? And I want the truth, the whole truth, and no dogma. Because that's how, look, we're talking through some system that has been constructed by the scientific process. All right? It's trial and error, it's empirical theories, when I was at university doing my specialization, a good friend of mine was in marine biology, and across the long side of their sort of main common room work area was a huge, great big drawing come poster, and this was the map of what they would do in research. So first of all, they were doing the Tree of Life, and they were doing the marine biology segment of it, and the universities all around the world, and they were filling in segments, and they had this whole map. And so the plan was, if you found out this was A or it was B, then you would make a different decision. And they had it all. Where is this in dentistry? Orthodontics? Where's the map? I want a map. I don't want to have a chat to people to make that map and get those answers. So we get some functional therapists and we say to them, right, what do you want to fill in? What are your answers? And it's not, we just need to start putting it together. Say, okay, what evidence have we got? Can we treat longitudinal cases? We give someone a discount that we don't put their goddamn records on the internet. We just say we're going to follow you long term and we're going to get independent people to look at your outcomes. Then just follow them. We're treating them anyway.
Yeah.
Why doesn't everyone take a sample?
Right. Your concept and how Mewing came about, is it like billions of people have watched?
Yeah, I think so. We counted the statistics in TikTok up to about 10 to 12 billion, and then we think it's hit the 20 to 30 billion now on just sort of ballpark estimates. But it's tailing down now. But the sting in the tail is, guys, you've got to realize that what I'm saying is the definitive underlying theory of facial growth in the population under 25. That's how it is. When they come of age and they have kids or they engage in a conversation with any health professional further down the line, they're coming from a very different angle than their parents came from. They're going to be naturally skeptical of anything except what I'm saying, because that was just what they had when they were kids. Whether they believed in the mewing movement, whether they did mewing, the definitive conversation in the school ground is how faces are malleable and influenced by the environment.
That's true. That's
it. So when someone says to them it's all genetic, they'll just go, are you stupid?
So the take-home message from this whole Mewing movement is that faces are malleable.
Yeah, I've won.
By oral posture.
I've managed to get my idea across before they struck me off.
You got
it.
I mean, but that's unbelievable. And you have the audience, you have these young people listening.
Well, yeah, I mean, they don't all know it's me, but this story is going to come out. It's impossible. Again, you can't fool all the people all the time. You can't do it. Okay? So the story's going to come out because it's getting so bad. But it's getting so bad. We were fine when we only had 28 teeth. Okay? 32 teeth plus spare space was how our ancestors were for hundreds of thousands of years. Hundreds and hundreds. It doesn't make sense that type of time. It is mind-blowing. There are that many generations of people who live in there. Deep time doesn't make sense. And we all had 32 teeth with a great big extra bit at the back, in great big wide arches. Teeth were straight from birth to death. That's how it was, just like all the other mammals. There was no problem. And then we suddenly started living in a more sophisticated environment, and the teeth became crooked, and we started getting problems. Yeah? But it's really the last bit. I mean, I'm estimating here, I'm guessing, but I really think all the problems are ramping up now. Sleep apnea wasn't in my syllabus when I qualified as a dentist in '93. I know because sleep apnea was used in the name of another problem where you get left-sided heart failure. So I would have recognized the term. So I damn knew it wasn't in the syllabus. Someone recently estimated to me, top ENT surgeon, he estimated that it's killing 20% of the population a decade early. Disease that wasn't in my syllabus. We've got, you see, it's just stand back far enough. Look at the anthropologists who are saying the more complex the grave is, the more malocclusion you've got. Okay? These other outside of dentistry, people are looking in perplexed, going, how have they got these theories? We've published all the anthropology research. I've seen articles in the refereed orthodontic literature on etiology of malocclusion that just is completely walled off all the anthropology or archaeology literature. It's as if, oh, don't look over there. You might upset your theory. You might learn something. I'm saying it's all genetic.
Why do you think people are so closed off to this concept, orthodontists?
Well, because I think you go back to people like Angle. Angle was quite of the belief that it was the environment. And then the guy that took over him, who decided to extract teeth, he had to, if you're extracting teeth, if that becomes your predominant philosophy, you've got to have a clean conscience, haven't you? Too many teeth, it's genetic. Yeah, and then you backfill science because you want to believe it's genetic. So in the scientific process, everyone starts shouting, we've got to be scientific. Right, let's get some science. Let's look over there. Do you want to look over here? No. There's something really interesting. Sorry, don't want to look. No, don't want to look. But sorry, I shouldn't make puns. We just need debate. We need debate. I mean, people know, anyone watching this within our community knows how hard it is to gain proper scientific engagement.
Right.
Proper scientific engagement, it doesn't happen.
Well, I do
Okay?
think reaching directly to the people is really important, and how you've obtained such a huge audience of the younger population who are listening and seeing this, and getting them to understand the health side of it and not just the cosmetic aesthetic piece, but
Yeah, and so while we're on it, I'll give you my donation page. I've still got to pay the last third of my appeal. I'm completely broke. Okay. Now I think I should recover. I hope. Yeah? Because we've got to get this change in the world. But any proceeds, any donations on the link below would be wildly appreciated, because I am trying to get answers. And I want to do it really, I want to do it properly. My father felt he had all the answers. And I think that was many people's problem with him. Now, I'm saying what I think I know, but I'm ready for turning on a decimal place.
do you think the same thing would have happened if you were living somewhere else and you would have the same situation? Does it have to do with where you are?
Britain is the perfect storm, is the perfect place, and it's the perfect storm. You see, in America, you're not as organized, it's not as controlling. You've not got so systemized systems that, in one way, when the National Health gets it right, it's very logical. You know, you have something called the NICE committee, because when funds are short, the NICE committee meet. It's National Institute of Clinical Excellence, and they decide where the money should be going based on research and everything. But when things get it wrong, you can't change the system. It's set wrong, okay? And I'm not saying, I don't want to sound like I'm too antagonistic to the orthodontic community. They have completely messed me over. And I've been trying to get engagement on the etiology for many years in the UK. And that's gone nowhere. And of course, that is the UK establishment. And it's the establishment that's also taken my license. You can understand I'm somewhat miffed.
What happens if you move?
I can't get, what I can't do at the moment is I can't do online consultations, because they're stacking up. I mean, I'm getting people asking every day if I can give them a consultation. I've got this knowledge. I know what's going on. I think. Challenge me, please. And I've got this information. I should be able to charge people for that. But I'm not allowed to do that. And it just seems crazy to me. It just seems crazy that, and also that I wasn't able to go back and even talk to my patients. I had to walk away one day.
Yeah. But what if you live somewhere else, though?
If I lived in the States, I could do I could make a good wage, but I'm a homeboy.
Yeah.
My sister lives 20 minutes away. My brother's 10 minutes away. My father's about 25 minutes away.
Yeah.
My grandmum's used to be down the road over here. I've got kids. This is where they'll grow up. Yeah. I believe in that environment, the concept, the community. Not only the community is part of your health as well, and your mental stability and well-being, and so is family. If I lose my license it all depends on the decision coming up. Okay, so we're going to appeal. We're going to go to appeal in June, the middle of that week, 5th, 6th, 10th, 8th to 10th, something like that. 3 days: the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
And if people who are watching this aren't sure exactly what's going on, could you summarize? Is that okay?
There was 3 aspects of the trial. One was a patient who, the treatment had gone brilliantly. I tried the older brother, got a great result on him, got a great result on this child has gone from to, the transformation's crazy. To pick that case, I did standard bioblock therapy, absolute standard. But clearly, I can understand the argument of she didn't have a massive malocclusion. I've been following her 2 years, and I can see, looking at those faces from the 4 to 6, I can spot downward growth. I knew where she was going to go. And the mother was, after the treatment on the brother, the mother was absolutely, she wasn't just, I'd like treatment. It's, aren't you fitting the appliance today? No, we're taking impressions, and then I've got to get your consent. Oh, but you've got that already. Okay, slow down here. Really nice mum who's really stood behind me, and the treatment's just out of the world good. So what's the goddamn problem? Second case literally diabolical. I didn't do the treatment. So actually, under British law, move on. So they can only do me for planning the treatment. And since the child unbelievable bad wear of the appliances. The mother was turning at double the rate. I mean, it's one of those absolutely crazy situations. Sorry, you're not good for treatment, let's stop. Go home, do something else. But because this girl wasn't as experienced, she didn't notice as quickly. But still, God, you was only wearing the appliances for 3 months.
And you weren't doing the treatment, but you were just advising?
She worked for me. I was trying to see if I could employ someone to do orthotropics. It's really tough.
You didn't do the treatment at that point because you
because I needed to give her a couple of patients that
okay,
she was responsible for.
Okay, gotcha.
And that she liaised back, and this was one of the patients, and it didn't go well. But by the by, he had sleep apnea or sleep issues. The transcript's all out, anyone can get it. And as long as I don't say anything that's a lie, well, it's the truth. I'm speaking the truth, okay? So, but the mother didn't like me, and I won't go down that avenue. But either way, you can't really judge a treatment from a diabolically failed case. And it was clearly a diabolically failed case. So those were the two treatment cases. And then we had the British Orthodontic Society, in their wisdom, decided to go through my YouTube channel and write, I can't remember, it was 21 allegations. Forgive me, but they make... And when I looked at the allegations, I thought, they're structured in an odd way. Who writes like that? It was only when I got the charge sheet from the GDC did I realise, oh, you matched the GDC charge sheet format, so that someone low down in the General Dental Council could simply copy and paste. And by putting on the bottom of the letter the name of all the top professors in the UK, it kind of gives some authority to an allegation. So the British Orthodontic Society referred me to the General Dental Council. They set out and they did it in the most brutal way. I mean, it was done with intent. And so one of the charges held, in fact, no, remember, the charges were upheld absolutely. All the charges, I was found guilty of everything. And literally everyone that looked at them said, oh, wow, they've gone over the board with these charges. They're just crazy.
What are these charges like? Can you talk about? It has to.
I'm not prepared. If you want me to, I can come back again and I can talk the charges. But
in general, so they looked at your YouTube channel.
It was things like doing expansion or telling a patient that I could improve the nasal airway using expansion.
Well, since they're research...
Sorry, I was found guilty. Sorry, I think you need to revise your textbooks here. I was found guilty by the General Dental Council in the United Kingdom, and that's a fact.
Well, wait, so isn't there research showing that's true?
Well, I mean, we showed research that seemed to demonstrate precisely that, but they preferred the opinion of the experts for the prosecution. We're demonstrating, so in British law, the experts are supposed to be independent. They don't have to be in American law. Your experts can be biased. But in British law, and I think most of the rest of the world, experts have to be absolutely stickly clean.
Okay.
And I think I can, in fact, GDC, sue me if I'm wrong, but I think we clearly demonstrated your experts were very biased. I mean, at one point, very biased. And the case rolled on. I'll give you the story because it was in the paper, the Jaws paper. So you're familiar with the Jaws paper. Sandra Khan wrote it with...
Ehrlich, right?
Yeah. Now, that was a brilliant paper. That was written by, you've got Robert Sapolsky, you've got Marcus Fieldman, you've got some really heavyweights, and it's a heavyweight journal. Impact factor, I can't remember, 12, 13, a heavyweight journal. And at the bottom, just underneath the sort of summaries and everything, before the references, it said, with special thanks to Mark Cruz and to anonymous helpers, whatever you call them. So the expert for the prosecution, the max facts expert, my lawyer said to me, we put this to the orthodontist expert, and we really did wind the guy up. Yeah, the guy was having to speak different ways. I mean, he contradicted himself within 5 minutes. It was brilliant. My lawyer was brilliant. He goes, so you're saying these orthotropic braces they're functional appliances, aren't they? And this guy, they're not functional appliances. He goes on, they're not functional. Even he says it in his text, they're not functional appliances, because I'd said they're not functional appliances. Anyway, later, literally within 5 minutes, he's asking the orthodontic, the expert, he says, but you don't know how these appliances work. And he's going, well, yeah, they're functional appliances, aren't they? They're just another functional. I know how functional appliances work. And you're going, and the committee believed him. Anyway, there's this comment in that paper. Okay, my barrister's telling me they have to take that paper out the water. They've got to kneecap it. Because that paper validates you all the way through. Okay, and that paper it totally validates you. It's a great paper in a great journal. It should validate you. It should carry the weight. So the Max Facts expert, he reads that bottom comment. He said, with special thanks to 2 anonymous people. And he goes, I've been the editor of a journal. He said, I've read journals all my life. I've never seen that written down. Now, could those 2 anonymous people be John and Michael Mew? Dumb. Anyway, we go out and I'm thinking, oh my God, this guy. But incidentally, there's nothing to do with me. I'd never even seen that. And I had nothing to do with that paper. We went down to our little room downstairs and we go through all of the papers, so the evidence in evidence. And we find 2 papers, one he'd used himself with exactly the same written on the bottom. So we go back and say, what gives? You've just said you've never seen this before. You've punted the idea it could be Mew. Now, do you think, Nicole, that was angling towards the prosecution or angling towards the defense? Do you think that was at all biased? Do you think he made that one incident demonstrated any level of bias? Because the law's clear. If you can show someone's biased in any one point, they're probably biased all the way through. Just like if this is someone who's put in a position of trust. There's a massive trust. This is my career. I've lost it. I've gone bankrupt. I've lost everything. And so this is a big position of trust. This matters to people's lives. I mean, my patients, I wasn't able to talk to them. They walk out the door, bye-bye. You're not allowed to talk to them. If you have someone in a position of trust and you demonstrate clearly, as we did in this case, look, you're wrong, and we demonstrated someone's wrong, if you clearly demonstrate that, well, whoever that person is and whatever that trust relationship you have with that person, you're going to question everything else they say. Because it's hard enough to make an absolute dead cert proof when someone's biased, is it? Because it's normally implied, it's normally insipid, it's normally a flavour somewhere. And you know they're doing it, can't prove it. But this was a proof out and out, he's done it. And they even admitted that. They said, oh yeah, it wasn't perfect. But it's a binary decision. It's in or out. If you show someone it's out. But so anyway, the case continued. And they found me, it was the treatment. We made this really clear. I could have done this treatment absolutely perfectly. And I was still at floor of the law. And if you know your science, out of all of these non-mainstream treatments, orthotropics is probably the one with the best evidence, okay? It's well based by evidence, really solid evidence under it. But so take any other medical non-mainstream orthodontic approach, where are they going to be? We were taken down because we lacked adequate scientific evidence, so that's dishonesty. No, it's malpractice, and they didn't get me for dishonesty. So the 2 ones, there's 3 things to be got on. That's harm, dishonesty. So they couldn't suggest I was dishonest. Could you suggest I was dishonest in the beliefs I'm putting forward tonight? I'm putting on a very good act if I'm being dishonest about this. This is what I genuinely believe.
Right.
You know, you can tell that. And of course, they couldn't do me. They were persuaded by the prosecution experts, the panel, but they couldn't have been that evidence, but they couldn't have been persuaded that I was a dishonest individual, because I'm plainly not. Plainly believe this stuff. And there's plainly no harm to the patient. The cases went well. So what's going on?
And was it just this one case with this one big issue that caused everything to snowball? You said there was one patient positive results, and then the other patient, it was not a good situation. And is that what
and then we had the videos. So they had with the videos that weren't providing evidence that wasn't factually correct. Okay, and I had no evidence to say these things in videos.
And so that really made it turn into a bigger snowball, was the YouTube videos and the following for the
Well, I know the YouTube videos weren't as significant as the treatment.
But that they use that as evidence or ammunition to say you are maybe spreading information that's not valid, or right? Is that?
Yeah, basically I'm lying to patients. That's malpractice. You're telling patients it's cock and bull. You say the moon's made of green cheese. Yeah. What's most galling, Nicole, is so in 2009, I wrote an article, The Black Swan, where I challenged the profession to a debate on the etiology of malocclusion. I thought it was 7. It was actually 6 years. I was doing a 6-year letter writing campaign. So I wrote to the All-Party Dental Committee, the Minister of Health. I had a question asked in the House of Lords. I wrote to the General Dental Council. I wrote to the 4 separate chairs, the committee, the quango above the General Dental Council, my minister, the Minister of Health, I wrote to everyone. And I said, look, it's openly admitted in our profession that we don't know the cause of the problem, okay? And we should have a debate about it. How can you be treating anywhere from a third to half the population, often on the state expense, and you've got no idea of the cause, and properly no idea of the cause? You know, there is few things we do think when the orthodontists say, well, we've got this area that we do know. They're nearly always the thumbsuckers or the aberrant swallowers or the really clear environmental problems. There are genetic problems, but they're less than 1%. From what we know, that's what the science is telling us at the moment.
A lot of diseases of modern man and a lot of Western medicine doesn't know the cause. We're just treating symptoms.
Yeah, well, this is my purpose. So the concept I put forward is called craniofacial dystrophy. It's a word I recommend people should start using because it's in common usage. That's how you go on the internet, you go to adults of tomorrow. You know, the people who are going to be running governments, running departments, running everything, they call it craniofacial dystrophy. And this is simple. It means incorrect growth of the craniofacial complex. Simple. Yeah? And we can all agree it's not growing properly, and something that ain't the right shape don't work proper. How it goes, okay? And it's not the right shape, and it sometimes doesn't look as good, and that is a real double-edged sword. We kind of alluded to it earlier on, but oh baby, is this a double-edged sword? Particularly in this kind of modern world we're in. COVID, of course, will probably kick that forward, that we all know less people. I remember when I was a kid how many people my parents knew. And again, that's me wanting to stay in a little area like this. I can't move. And you can't kill an idea whose time has come. You can't do that. And there's a problem here. And Mewing, my name is written over the whole goddamn thing. There's no way of you cannot enter into this area if you do any proper research. My name's falling over all the place. There's 3 generations of my family have been on this path. My father intensely, and everyone says, oh, you're nothing like your father. No, I'm nothing like my father. I'm going in a completely different direction, and I'm being very successful. It's one thing to say, oh, Michael, you got lucky, and I did get lucky. But remember, I was doing exactly what I aimed to do. It's one thing to be lucky when you weren't aiming to do it, but not only was I aiming to do it, I'd spent a lot of money and I spent a lot of resources on trying to get exactly this thing done, and I did do it. And I was on early days of YouTube helped, early days of Facebook helped.
Was that your thought with Mewing? Did you think it was going to become something and I'm going to spread this to a younger population through social media and get people listening? Or how did that happen?
Well, I've always been itching. So it's funny, I went down the pub recently, met up with an old mate of mine who goes down the local pub here. And another mate happened to turn up. And this mate left our school when we were 14 and went off to New Zealand, and he's living in England now with a New Zealand accent. And his son wanted a photograph with me because his son he came down the pub as well. He's in his 20s, and he wanted a photograph with me, and that was just a little bit strange. But then he goes to me. He goes, Mike, you've been harping on about these things when we were at school.
Really?
Now I was 14 when he left.
So did you realize that? Did you remember? This is your first time, I guess.
I knew I'd talked about it, but for the fact that this old mate of mine, Ian, I hadn't seen for years, to be palpably remember it, I mean, just a little bit, it just reminded me, and I thought, oh yeah, I probably was actually. I knew how faces grew then. I've known it all my life. I was first interested, Dad was doing this research on the kitchen table at home, where he had all these fish heads. So he'd bought a whole load of fish heads from wild salmon, a whole load of fish heads from farm salmon. But this was brought up in the documentary, if you remember.
I remember.
And it was clear he had farmed fish heads, he had wild fish heads, and the farm fish heads had more malocclusion. It was, what can you do when you're totally frozen out the scientific process? He was coming up with any idea he could. Because a 4-year-old child looking over him and going, oh, that's interesting.
Well, then didn't he treat your siblings a different technique than you? I remember.
No, more. He just pushed each one. He pushed a little bit further. And interestingly, both me and my sister have improved with age.
Okay.
So both of us have got our facial form. My sister, actually, I think better. She's got a better change. But she's a physiotherapist. She's one of the top physiotherapists in the country. She was the lead physiotherapist for the Paralympics at home. You know, if you want to be a sports physiotherapist, That's a good job to have.
What does she think about everything that's gone on with you?
Well, which is the concept. Remember, my mother was a physiotherapist, so this was very much posture, how you stand, body movement. It was a big influence on me. I'm on the spectrum. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm always been a little bit strange, the best of
Have you been diagnosed on the spectrum or are you self-diagnosed?
At 9 years old, I was told I would get no qualifications, no high school qualifications. I'd be a dropout. I was in the bottom class in all sets, so I was in 4D in everything. I was at the bottom or second to bottom in everything. I was really good at art. I was really good at art. I loved it, and I could draw things, and was imaginative, and I was creative. I was winning prizes. Everyone knew I was going to be an artist. That's what Mike was going to be. And then one day, this boy Bishop was ill, and this was a boarding school. So Bishop was being looked after by one of my geography master when he threw up over half the geography books. And the exams were coming up. I remember the geography teacher coming in and saying, look, I'm not going to give you your books back. I'm going to say all the information will be on the exam. Now, I'm really good with maps and spatial orientation. And he'd kind of made a logic test. And I remember after the exam, they called me in and they said, can you tell me how you got some of these answers? And I'm thinking, oh, wow, maybe I've done worse than I normally have.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So anyway, they then came in a few days later and announced I'd come first. And that sent alarm bells ringing. Because and I was way ahead of everyone else. And how can this kid who's always last on everything, except maths, well, I was middle, how can he suddenly, we checked, he came up with these questions properly himself, he reasoned it. So I remember them sending me to some funny man. I remember where it was. It's not far from here, actually. And he tested me, and I remember there was this picture of a rat running up a log, and he said, read this. And I said, it's a rat running up a log. And he goes, that's not what the text says. That's what the picture's saying. Ah. And you're making it up looking at the picture, aren't you? And I went, oh, I better look down. And then I remember they then sent me to a special school.
Okay.
And I got into dentistry.
When you were having a hard time in school, was it attention or you just felt like you thought differently or it wasn't interesting?
You don't know. I just thought I knew I was stupid, so I might as well look out the window.
Oh, so you felt that. Okay. You
I was
didn't feel
stupid.
like you already know all that.
Everyone said I was stupid.
Oh, isn't that horrible? And
Oh, hey! Welcome to the 70s. That's how it was, wasn't it? Everyone knew I was stupid. It caused a lot of issues because it was, when I got into dental school, a lot of my peers whose parents were doctors and dentists didn't get in to study dentistry or medicine because it's hard to get in. This is all state funded back then, particularly. It's all done by the state, so it's done on your qualification. You're not paying anything. But everyone remembered me. How come Michael got in? Because he was the stupid kid. How did the stupid kid get in? And my interview was a little ridiculous because everyone knew Dad, but I did get the grades and I did go to that uni.
It's the neurodivergent thinkers that will change the world.
Yeah, and I think that I like Branson when he says that dyslexia is his secret thing. People don't notice because my specialist chosen area is people, right? How to engage with people. I am good at it. I'm really good at it. I've just got this inkling when I'm with people, when I'm not too big-headed and talk over them.
Is it stressful for you? Or how they say masking?
I love life. I truly love the breaths I take and the being with people and the everyday dealing occurrences. And not every morning when the alarm goes off, but you've got to enjoy something. And how am I disposed to having lost everything and still being me, positive, got to get up, got to do something, got to change the world because I know the way the world's going.
And you have that passion, that motivation. You're staying on that path, and that's what keeps you going through difficult times.
I was thinking about this recently, and I think it's almost a quasi-religious mission. And I think that when you can endure so much because you're on a quasi-religious mission, and I think it's almost a natural aberration of human psychology that you can tap into that if you need to. And I have had to. And it's just shocking what I've got through. I mean, I can't list out the things that have gone wrong wrong in my life.
You've had colleagues who have felt similar ways as you and haven't gone through what you've gone through.
But there's so much more that doesn't meet the eye.
Yeah.
Because when that much stress happens to you, what does it have on the family? What does your relationships? What does it do all around? It's just, it is mind-bendingly hard.
A lot of these forward thinkers like yourself, I'm just thinking like those people that your passion, your undying passion to stay on this path is like other colleagues where people have not listened and don't believe them, don't hear them, and you persist, you continue.
I had a long think about this, and I've really structured the organizations. I've done a lot of planning. And yeah, I mean, the court case was worse than I imagined, but it's not totally, it's what you would expect to happen. And the world's going to change, and I'm going to be at the center of it. Because I'm not big-headed going around saying I've got all the answers and I want to mold. We're going to have a once-a-time chance to mold everything forwards in a certain direction. In May, we're going to do a campaign because I need people's help. Because the crux case that fell down, the first domino in this case, is the cause of the problem, okay? So the key domino, the key decision was when the committee said that malocclusion is predominantly due to the genes, or words to that effect. Now, I don't have to win the court case to win the science. Or in theory, if it was a real world, all I need to do is demonstrate that fact, the central domino, the first domino in that decision was wrong, and then, well, give me my license back, okay? Because, sorry, if you've made a decision based on the idea that malocclusion is mainly genetic, and if I prove that actually it's mainly environmental, well, give me my license, thank you. And I've managed to get the public attention that other people haven't. So what we're suggesting is we do a malocclusion mayhem, was my brother's suggestion on the term, but what binds us all together is our belief that there's an environmental element. So what I'd like everyone to do is to write something, make a video, do something, and we'll come up with some tags or some of those hashtag things, and we'll say that my objective is to get debate on the etiology or acknowledgement of the environmental elements so that we can look at prevention. We can understand the cause and look at prevention. Okay? The more, I'm not asking for everything, but I'm saying that if we do something together, we are greater than the sum of our parts. If everyone gives me a bit of a push, I can get beyond what anyone else could ever do. You know that. You will have your own video. You take what you do and give an exploring of something to do with you or your treatment or your thing and just say, my treatment is based on this environmental aspect. It's not all genetic. We need open, free, fair and full engagement on the cause. Because you've got to know the cause. If you don't know the cause, you don't understand the problem. We can't stand there saying it's multifactorial. We're going to go, what is it? Let's find out. That's what we need to know. Because if there's an environmental element, we could be doing prevention. With simple things like eat with your mouth shut. Breathe through your nose. Stand up straight with your mouth shut. In a way, mewing's just a trick. It's a hack. It's a good way of using suction to keep you standing up straight with your mouth shut. That's what it is, a good thing. Yeah? If you can support me by buying the Mewing app or by donating directly, as in the links below. Okay? Because that's what's driving me forward, because I now want to be unlinked. So if I can make more money from the Mewing app and donations than it's costing me to live and do these videos, then I change the world.
In the next 5-10 years, what do you see is going to happen?
What we need to do is, I think we need research by the people for the people, and we need to have engagement. So what I'm saying is, when you look, we live in this indiscriminate little dot in the middle of goddamn nowhere called the Earth, okay? And when they stop and they describe the things around this universe, you must think, how the hell do we know that? How the hell have we got that knowledge? And pretty good knowledge. Most of it seems to balance up. Well, because one thing they have in astrophysics is you have researchers and you have philosophers. People who just discuss, they just philosophize. You have the philosophy element and the research element, and these guys bounce off each other. Where are the philosophers in medicine or dentistry? Where's that branch? Where's the people just sitting there thinking, we're going to have good chat today, we're going to get people in? When have you ever been to a big conference and there's been a proper open discussion where anyone can turn up and contribute?
Oh, we know it's very symptom-driven care.
But you don't get a look in. You're not even allowed to ask. The last time we went to the British Orthodontic Conference, you couldn't ask free questions. All the questions were set up in advance. I can't get answers to my questions. But the profession that doesn't know the cause or the pathological process or the epidemiology or the cure, remember, because permanent retention is not cure. And all we need is debate. I don't know. And I don't want to be antagonistic to orthodontists. I just said I think we could do more than we're doing.
Well, I noticed the naysayers don't want to have the debate, right?
No, naysayers, no, because we haven't got any evidence. Who controls the evidence? Who controls the research? The person who controls the research controls the evidence, controls the truth. And that needs to change. Theoretical physicists is what I want to say. So we need theoretical orthodontists. Just people who sit there and chat. We need full, fair, and free discussion. Where anything's on the table, anyone can attend, and it's a level playing field. No one's more powerful than the other person. No one opinion gets to overshoot another opinion. I don't have the answers. I'm not making that mistake my father did. I just want answers.
Like a peaceful conversation, discussion, debate.
Yeah, sit down. I don't bite, I promise.
You're a very deep thinker, very curious.
I want answers. I want to understand what's going on, but particularly with prevention, because we think there's a whole hoop of things going on here. All of this structure isn't working well, and it's probably connected, and we should be talking about that.
That's great. I'm always down to talk more about this stuff. So thank you. I really thank you for all your enthusiasm and really getting a message out there more than anybody else can. You've got that message.
So, Nicole, this campaign, I'd love your hand with. I'd love maybe come on again, talk about it, get other people engaged, because the first punch through the system was the hardest. Now it will be easier. And we need to get the work. It's your duty, should remind you, to get the work out.
And that's what we're doing. A lot of us, this is all volunteer. What a lot of us.
Well, Nicole, when I go to these meetings, these orthodontic meetings, the meetings I go to, you can see these guys are doing it more for love than money.
Yeah, exactly. The airway people.
But remember, Nicole, airway's the first thing.
Yeah, right.
Then I tell you, I've mapped out all the next steps all the way down. Airway, then we go on to circulatory, body posture. It's kind of cracking down the line. How many different systems? Airway's just one of the symptoms. What would be the most important? But no, hands up.
But all the people in this camp that understand this, these are the nicest people I've ever met. People are mentored. When you go to these conferences, you're with your people. Everyone gets it.
I'm missing my people.
It's so funny. I have two boys, 10 and 12. And when I said, I'm going to be talking to Mike Mew, and they're, oh my gosh, you know him? They're freaking out. You are a star. The kids here, they all Mew. They all know what it is. My son, this is so funny. He's kind of shy, but he got an academic award in class, and they called him up to get their certificate. And I was like, what did you do when you walked up to the stage? He did his mewing thing as he walked up. Like showing off. I'm like, oh my gosh. He mewed as he walked up and stood in front of everybody to receive his award.
But you see, you should be, when you're not speaking, you should be mewing. It's just a suction mechanism. It's just suction to hold things in. It's just really simple. What I was describing was... I was describing my cut-down myofunctional therapy that's more postural than functional. We talk about the functional lot in myofunctional therapy. I was thinking, well, it's great, but the posture interests me more. So it was on the postural side of myofunctional therapy. That's what mewing is.
And they all have the hand gesture, like showing it, and it's just their thing. So you started quite a trend. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining this episode of Airway Answers. I'm hoping some of your airway questions were answered. Please feel free to give us a rating or a comment. And if you have any further questions, you're welcome to email me at nicole@airwayanswers.info or check out our site at www.airwayanswers.info. Thank you so much and join us for the next one.